He's now with the project. He's soon retired. He's brought two members of his command staff with him, Lieutenant Ryan Goldman and Lieutenant Kevin Monahan. From the Concord Fire Department, Chief Thomas Judge. Chief Judge actually is a Lexingtonian, grew up in Lexington. As you can see, kind of stuck in the deck a little bit. Welcome to you, Chief. From the Lexington Police Department, my pleasure, Chief Michael McLean. Chief McLean has been our Rotary speaker during the past year. He's spoken to us, no stranger to Rotary. He's brought two members of his command staff also. Captain Christopher Barry. Chris has been a guest with us also at Rotary. And my distinct pleasure, Captain John Mazerwal. Captain Mazerwal is the proud parent of his son Jack, who's a senior at Lexington High School football team. He's playing in the Thanksgiving Day class.
Welcome.
Fire Department, Chief Derek Sensabar. Chief Sensabar has also been a Rotary speaker for us this past year. Thank you so much, Chief. It's my distinct pleasure, a good friend, Steve Cooper, who's going to be our speaker today. Steve's from Channel 7 News. He's going to get a formal introduction a little bit later from our incoming president, Yanera, very shortly.
Welcome. Thank you, Past President. At this point, I'm going to pass this on to the athletic director from Lexington High School, Mark, who will then continue the introductions around this meeting.
Good afternoon, everyone. Happy Thanksgiving. I just want to say a huge thank you to the Lexington and Concord Rotarians for welcoming our program and the Concord program. It feels great to be back in person, and it also feels fantastic to be here with our new Thanksgiving opponent, Concord. I know for some of you in this room, the rivalry is simply renewed, and that we will welcome Concord to Harold Crumb Memorial Field on Thursday for the first time, since our guest is somewhere in the mid-1970s. Last team probably played in 76 or 77 in Lexington, so we're happy to have that back and coming over. Over the past week, as the temperatures have been cold, it's been a little bit of an addict on my phone looking at the weather. As an athletic director, when you see 40 and sunny on Thanksgiving, it's almost like Christmas has come a little bit early. So it's going to be a great day. We look forward to having the communities of Concord and Lexington out to support all of our student athletes participating in the game. I want to quickly acknowledge before former athletic director from Concord recently passed away, Barry Haley. He's been a mentor of mine, of Aaron's, and I saw him in late September, early October, and he was really looking forward to this rivalry. He never knew how easy it could be for our communities to come together. In most communities, switching your Thanksgiving Day football opponent is, something you might need NATO or the President's office to intervene on. But I think given how unique our communities are, the connection we have of being separated by Battle Road, it was a really special thing for our communities to come together to celebrate on Thanksgiving together again, as we did many years ago. And just want to acknowledge Barry Haley. I know he'll be watching out. He'll probably be out about the 9th hole by the time we tee off. Tees off and we get underway and playing. But we look forward to celebrating him on Thanksgiving as well. I'd like to introduce from Lexington our cheerleading coach, Laura Polillo, to introduce her student athletes and captains that are with us here today.
Thank you, everybody, again for inviting us, and it's very nice to be able to start this up again after a little bit of a hiatus. Looking forward to continuing the start of the second tradition. I did not know that they played in the 70s, so it's nice to kind of build it back up. I came from Arlington, they've had a huge tradition with Commonwealth for a really, really long time, so I kind of like that rivalry to stay strong and continues to go. I haven't been able to get through the season without my two captains, Javier Rajabel and Laura Pierres.
extend my thanks to the Rotary of both towns. I think I'm in a unique position in that I've been on both sides of this rivalry for a number of years. I'm so glad you brought up Barry Haley. He gave me an opportunity which I didn't think was coming again, so I greatly appreciated it. My captains are here: Mario Capone, Nelson Mendez-Stevens, Joseph Suh, and Matteo Gentile. It's been an interesting year from us on this side of Battle Run Road, and as one of the history teachers at LHS, I always use this rivalry as part of my lesson that day. We're looking forward to a great game. I see some familiar faces over on the players from over there, so I know it's going to be a great game, and I hope you can all come out and enjoy the football. Thank you.
At this time, I'd like to introduce the athletic director from Concord to come up to introduce his players and coaches. Before I turn it over to Aaron, I want to send regrets to this community from Dr. Julie Hackett, Lexington Public School Superintendent, and Dr. Andrew Stevens, Principal at Lexington High School, whose schedules didn't allow them to be here today, but certainly with us in spirit and wish you all a very happy Thanksgiving.
Thanks very much, Naomi. First of all, I'd like to start by thanking the students and staff here at the Minuteman for the meal today. So we're really grateful to have the opportunity to join you here this afternoon. And to echo Naomi's sentiment, we put our heads together a few years ago and were able to renew the rivalry between the two communities, Concord, Carlisle, for us, and Lexington. We were really fortunate that things worked out so smoothly, and I think a lot of the credit goes to Naomi and her staff and the community in Lexington for their willingness to provide the last year, with COVID still in our midst, we weren't able to join the luncheon here in person, and we're really grateful to have the opportunity to do so again this year, and to meet the captains from both teams and to bring our student athletes over as well. I'd like to introduce a couple of people from our administration, just to acknowledge their presence here with us this afternoon. One of our acting co-principals, Brian Miller, is here with us today. Also, extending welcome to our superintendent, Dr. Lori Hunter. We introduce our cheerleading coach, Lucy O'Connor, to introduce our captain.
Thank you all for having us today. We are so glad to have this tradition back. It really is nice to get everybody together so that the rivalry is there, but it's also a friendly rivalry. Our captains this year are Amanda Reynolds and we've had a great season, and we love watching football games. They work really hard, and our girls have worked really hard as well. We've had a really, really great season. This team is probably one of the closest knit we've ever had, and it's really great to see student athletes coming together for a common goal and working together and supporting one another. And this event really encourages that as well. So thank you for having us.
And our head football coach, Josh Reed.
First, I just want to say thank you for having us. It's great. I never was part of this tradition, so it's nice to have it back and to see everybody and to see, a friend like Shane Wilson in close in person besides on the field. Is always good to see him catch up. So our captains this year is Blake Newcomb, Golden Miller, John Keeler,
In closing, I would just like to emphasize for all of you, if you are able to come to the game on Thursday, we welcome you with open arms. But I think for our students our student athletes, you know, where our emphasis is really on educational athletics, and this is an opportunity for them to get a little bit of understanding about what goes on beyond the field. We know that the competition will be fierce on the field, but as Coach O'Connor said, it's a friendly rivalry. Our students, Lexington students, will demonstrate great sportsmanship. It should be what the holiday is all about. So thanks very much, and we'll look forward to seeing you in person.
So that concludes our introduction. Again, we're delighted to have all of you with us today. And I'll pass back to President Brown.
Thank you, and again, welcome to the class. It's an honor to be standing here in front of all of you. This is a beautiful tradition, and it makes me so happy to see young people, older people, new members, older members. So thank you all for being here. And if I don't want to forget, so I'm going to wish you now a happy Thanksgiving to you and your families and friends. And I hope that this tradition goes on and on forever and ever. I am going to introduce the president of the Rotary Club of Concord, Ingrid. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you all. It's wonderful to be here. This is a beautiful, beautiful facility, and I'm so glad we have an opportunity for our members to be introduced to such a wonderful place, and you're very fortunate to have this as your weekly meeting space. We've been on the hunt ourselves, so I very much appreciate. I'm really delighted to be here. I'm so glad that we are finally able to extend beyond the pandemic to a point where we feel comfortable coming together again, both young and old. And I very much appreciate that we've had this opportunity, and I thank you all for welcoming us.
And now for the fun part of the meeting, fun and happy. The welcome song. Okay, I forgot to welcome all of you. We welcome you so many times. I forgot. So the welcome song, Secretary Frank wanted to sing.
I wanted to sing. Come on. Rotarians, Lexington Rotarians, please rise. I just want to let everybody here know how lucky you are to be here today, so we can sing to you, because if we were doing this next year at Concord, as much as I love the Concord Club, they don't sing to their guests. So. And there may be a reason for that, but anyway, here we go. On pitch, let's make it rock, let's make it go. We welcome you to Lexington to meet with us today. Our door is always open to our friends in Rotary. We're glad to have you with us, and we hope you'll come again to Rotary Lexington. We all say welcome visiting Rotarians. Welcome all you non-Rotarians. Welcome to our club in Lexington. We hope you'll come again.
Last time you guys got sang too. Everybody look this way for a minute. Smile.
All right, so
Thank you.
So, President Veronica, I had a couple of things, but I see that Steve Kirkland, unless he snuck in late, is not here. But I have a copy of a program, Lexington Concord game, I think 1969, because of the names that I recognize in here. And one Lexington Rotarian who was on the Concord squad, Steve Kirkland. He still is a member of the club now, so I'll save that to get him later. I also, we want to talk about cash raffle while I'm up.
Sure, would you like to talk about the cash?
Let me do that. Cash raffle we just concluded on Friday. We had the drawing. Every year we raise $30,000. We sell 300 tickets for 100 each. Thank everybody who bought tickets. And just so the kids in the room understand why we do these things, both Concord and Lexington. In Lexington, we have two major fundraisers. One is a comedy night. We raise almost about the same net, $15,000. The cash raffle, we give out the prizes, and after we give out the prizes, we net about $15,000. We use that money for scholarships for Lexington High School, Minuteman High School, and the Lexington Christian Academy. So every year we give out about $15,000, and the rest of the monies are used for different programs in the town. But for the most part, that's where our efforts are focused, and that's why we do it. So this year, I'm happy to say that after all was said and done and prizes paid out and expenses, we netted $15,518. So, happy finds and happy dollars. I have 100 happy dollars. Because talking about tradition with Concord, when my dad graduated Lexington High School in 1942, the Concord-Lexington game was being run, and before that, I believe. So it was a long time. I played in 1971, Concord, and I think that was like near the end in 1975 or 76. They changed it over, changed the Middlesex League, the MIAA, and their infinite wisdom decided that schools were too big or too small, broke everything up and changed everything. But we had 10 teams in the Middlesex League, and really was a powerhouse league. We had some tremendous athletes, not just in football, but in track, basketball. So we also had a couple of people in Lexington that I want to remember today. Both of their names were Paul Maswell. Young Paul Maswell and I graduated high school together, and if you ever saw a guy that could run, if you gave him the corner and got around the corner, no one caught him. He was a tremendous athlete. Track also, I think at the time, in 1970, Lexington High School indoor track were state champions. Paul was a member of the 4x200 relay team who won a state champion that year. I mean, this guy, if you think about the god Mercury with the wings on his heels, that's all I saw was the back of him as he ran away from it. So, great friend of mine. He left this earth a little earlier than we wanted him to. But tremendous tradition, tremendous athlete, great family, and also John's dad, Paul Sr., who was with the town of Lexington Tree Department for 35 years. Anything you needed in town, something had to be done to one of the fields or anything like that, you needed a pole put up for lights or something like that, we went to Paul and he took care of it. He just passed away last week at the age of 99. Good one. But great family. I spent a lot of time with the Maswells when I was a kid, and great tradition, Concord, Lexington. Oh, by the way, I think we won my year.
Anybody else with past, present, please?
President Veronica, my pleasure. I want to thank and acknowledge all the student athletes, administrators, coaches of both teams for a job that's well done in the season, and also the Thanksgiving Day game. We were well-spirited contest, and be safe out here. In addition, I want to give happy dollars to my good friend Steve Cooper. Steve and I met some 30 years ago. We were just talking a little while ago in the food line, when exactly we did meet. And it was actually in Townsend, at a perfect crime scene in Townsend, Massachusetts. Over the years, our friendship developed. We'd see each other at scenes, and sometimes we'd have a conversation. Other times he would be busy, I'd be busy. It'd be a brief wave, a hello, a nod, or whatever. And we just got somebody that we just became very comfortable with. Not all the things that I met Steve at were bad. Some of the sporting events, our championship teams had parades, Bruins, Celtics, etc., and Patriots, obviously. One thing some people don't recognize or don't know behind the scenes, at a scene, you'll have the public safety officials together, get together our notes and getting our speaking cards ready. The press will be in one area over here doing the same thing, getting ready with your sound checks, etc. And one thing was always consistent over the years, the public safety would look over and say, "There's Cooper over there, he's a good guy." Now what does that mean? He's a good guy. He was always well prepared, he was thorough, he always got to the bottom of the story. He was somebody that you could trust. And what I mean by that was a situation sometimes where Steve would come to us and say, "We know this here, such thing is happening." We say, "Steve, we need to kind of run this, or we may need to speak to next of kin." And Steve would always honor that. The thing about that is he's on a timeline where he has to get things off the press or on live on the air, but he would still honor that. With all that being said, one of the biggest things on Steve, regardless of how the story went, good or bad, Steve was always somebody who was fair. Steve, thank you for what you did.
I have some happy dollars. We did have the raffle the other night, and we were fortunate enough to win a few dollars. What I found out, though, is that all of a sudden I have a lot more friends.
I'd just like to thank our first responders that are here, and especially Chief O'Connor, who will miss greatly.
I have $20 happy, 10 for each club coming together today.
I have 20 happy dollars to celebrate this day. It's a great day. Great to see such a good group of people here. Sharon?
Oh, you got it.
I don't have any happy dollars, unfortunately. I just want to take a couple of minutes just to acknowledge Chief O'Connor. It's no secret to anyone, he came to Concord PD with a wealth of experience with Winchester and senior and everything else. One thing I've known in my 27 years in Concord he's professional, progressive, and he's engaging department. And I'm proud to say, since he's been there, I've just seen the department continue to grow. A lot of his he's going to have to well-deserved retirement, but knowing the way that he prepared his staff and executive development, I know thanks to Joe, it's been great to meet you in my time as far as many probably more phone calls and one or two probably want to change his number. He's been great. I wish him well, and to both Rotary clubs, I want to say thank you to all the athletes and coaches. I wish you both all the luck in the world, and I wish Ms. Lexington a little bit more. But thank you for having me.
Yeah, just happy thanks to the Lexington Rotary Club for hosting and sponsoring this event. Also to Chief O'Connor for a great run. And I do want to say that I was friends with Nick before he won.
And
I have also 100 happy dollars and all the years that I invested into the Rotary Club. My wife actually won, and I won the raffle because I won for the family, so there's 100 for me.
I also have 10 happy dollars here.
Thank
just
you.
to be grateful.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you for coming.
Gabriel is our next new Rotarian that's going to be inducted. So, congratulations.
Hi, my name is Oleg. I live in Anaheim. I'm a new member of the Concord Rotary, and I just want to say I'm very honored to be a part of the gathering. It's just absolutely fantastic. So, thank you.
Thank you.
So, for our club's business, we have President Diana already told us about the raffle. I just want to add it was a great event, and while we all do our little tiny part, past President Dan, past President Michelle, and past President John O'Donnell did a massive amount of work selling the tickets. It was a great night. It was fun. I invite you all to join us next year. It was really nice and nicely done. So thank you so much for that. We don't have to add anything else. Good. And for other business of the club, we have the Sanford Seniors Secretary Frank.
Briefly, we'll do our Stand for Seniors project again this year. The Concord Club, what we do is solicit names of people in the town who don't have the financial
bathroom. The
Blue
items-
tickets.
Wait a second, the items were donated by Tilly and...
The items were donated by Lexington Rotary, Eagle Bank, Enterprise Bank, Bickley Financial, Alex Oil, and we're going to do this. Blue tickets.
Do you do this every week?
Yes, we do.
Yes. Wow. We're getting some good ideas from you guys. You can always join our club.
Blue ticket, last three numbers, 893. 893, 893. Somebody's going to be Step right up, please. Help yourself. Congratulations.
Oh my goodness.
Not the cash.
Oh, that's next ticket. 831.
Oh my God.
This is a tape measure.
Something for your mother.
All right, next ticket. 912. 912, yes. Long walk will be worth. So, bag and calendar, a tape measure, or a penny for your thumb. All right, next ticket. 896. Excellent choice. Next ticket, 828. 828. Anybody? Picking another ticket. All right, keep this quick. 920. Nobody? My choice. And last, but not least. 876.
I request permission to find our Sergeant at Arms.
No, good.
Here we go.
Like I got nothing to do.
Of course. These are the tickets that I bought.
Lucky you got
These are the tickets he left on the table, so I never would have had a chance. Here you go.
Oh, but wait a minute. You didn't pay for them anyway.
Oh yeah, the pink one is still in play. He's got a point. So let me give you this. Your fine is halfway marked.
He's consistent, it's the same thing.
However, only for certain individuals.
He does such a great job that I am going to pay his fine.
Both Cleve and I won. We had the same numbers.
Dominic, the position is over.
That was my first position. That was my first position on the club.
And now I have the honor of having Vice President here.
President Veronica. I'm happy to introduce Channel 7 news reporter and filmmaker Steve Cooper. Steve will give us insight into television news operation and his view from the inside. Steve graduated from UMass Amherst with a BA degree in communications studies and journalism. He resides in the Boston area with his wife and twin sons, Benjamin and Jonathan. Steve also enjoys being involved in the community, such as charities, golf tournaments, and ski races. Welcome, Steve.
afternoon, and thank you for having me. If any of these guys leave in the next few minutes, I'm following them out the door. So now I'm going to talk really fast. And I apologize because there's no teleprompter in front of me today. So if I stumble, you know, when you bring a news reporter or a news anchor out into the field, and there's no words coming up in front of us, we're on our own. On my way over here, I called my sister and I said, hey, I'm going to speak to the Lexington Rotary. And she said, you're speaking at a Lexington Rotary? Which one? I didn't think there were any Rotaries in Lexington. I know there's some in Belmont, but I'm sorry, I meant the club, but thank you for saying that because that's my first joke of the day. I grew up in Belmont, and just looking back, it was 42 years ago, my last time that I stepped foot in Lexington. We lost to Lexington on the field here. We were in the States, and after we lost in sudden overtime, I decided I was never going to come back to Lexington until I was offered an invitation by the Rotary Club to speak today. So here I am, 42 years later, back in Belmont, and looking forward to come to the Lexington football game because Belmont this year is playing on Wednesday at Fenway Park against Watertown. So we'll have all the cameras here, so all the captains, when you see the cameras at the game, run up, do your thing, and you'll be on the news on Thanksgiving. And finally, no, I'm just kidding. I did want to, after all these years, aside from knowing Cleve for several decades, another dear friend of mine I hear is retiring, so I'm going to have to delete him from my phone and offer an autograph picture to Chief O'Connor. And I know what the Chiefs do. They put these pictures up in their office, you know, where the dartboard is. News reporter, news reporter. And thankfully, Cleve, well, I never give away my sources, but since he started, and he's retired now, I will tell you that this business is all about credibility, and it's really all about trust, and having people, the viewers at home, believe in what you're doing, and that you're being fair in what you say and how you report things. You know, this has been an evolution in the broadcasting industry for so many years. When I grew up, many years ago, there were 3 TV stations in Boston, maybe a couple of newspapers, the Globe and the Herald, the local papers, but that was really it. And today, as you know, there are probably 10 TV stations that people can tune into. There are radio stations, there are newspapers, and then there are these things, phones. And on the phones is social media. And I don't have to tell all the young people sitting here today that this is the way today a lot of people get their news and information. And they do it on their own. They can research, they can look things up, they have certain news groups, they have friends groups, they have TikTok, WebTalk, Twitter, whatever the things are. And so that's changed the way we do news on a daily basis. 40 years ago, there was the news in the morning, there was the 6 o'clock news and the 11 o'clock news. That was it. Now at Channel 7, we do 18 hours of news a day. And on any channel in Boston, you can see a newscast at any hour of the day, 24/7, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. It just goes on and on and on. So that's really changed the way how we do our job. But for example, with Twitter, I'm just going to turn around. I'm just going to take a picture of everybody here, and I'm going to tweet this out so we can get this out and let everyone know right now where I am today. And within 30 seconds, this will be all around, not just to my people that are following me, but people will retweet it, and on it goes. And this matters now. And this matters how police departments are giving out information. Stuff is happening super fast. And so, as I'm sitting here today and as I'm watching my phones go off second by second, there's probably 3 different, the top news story has changed just since we've been here 3 times. Just since we've been here. So when I came in here, what I thought was going to be the lead story on the news tonight has already been dropped down to 2 other stories, and it's only 1:15 in the afternoon. So that's how fast the world is changing. as I mentioned, November is a dear month for me because not only did I just turn 60, I realized in November, today's my 30th wedding anniversary, and my wife said to me, "Where are you going?" And I invited her because the meal was great, by the way. And I didn't have to pay for it, but she was going to have nothing to do with that, so we're still going to spend the $500. But anyway, just a couple things. My job, I started in 1985, and I've been working in broadcasting in the Boston area my whole career. So I guess that's 35 years plus. And I started at a small radio station. I went to Belmont High School, then I went to UMass Amherst, studied communications and journalism, and then I got a job working in Salem, Mass at a radio station. I then moved to a cable TV station in Lowell, which is where I originally started running around and running into this guy who's dog Spike. And every time Cleve would throw his dog in the back seat, I didn't want to get in the back seat, but I wanted to get in the front seat. And the doors were locked. But we spent a lot of time together, and again, there's a lot of bad things obviously that we have to cover, but there's a lot of good things too. And in 2004, I don't know if anyone remembers because it's so long ago, but the Red Sox actually won the World Series. And so we were covering the Red Sox back then, and the day of this thing called the Duck Boat Parade they decided to have. I don't know if anyone knows what that is, but all of a sudden we've had them for the last 20 years, except for, not this year, but we've had them. And so in 2004, we put all of our reporters along the route, and they said to me, "Steve, just go down and get Kurt Schilling at his house." And I said, that was the year of the bloody sock. Like, I'm just going to drive down to his house, drive down his driveway, ring the doorbell, get nice to the bloody sock, get in his car, we're going to drive up to Boston for the parade. So all the reporters from all the stations are all along this route. And I don't know if you know, but at one point, the duck boats ended up going into the water at the Science Museum over near the Charles River, and that's where they splashed in. So while all this was going on, obviously, we pulled up to Kurt Schilling's house. He was driving in the opposite direction. I said, "Uh-oh, we just missed him." So I called the station. I said, they said, "Did you get Kurt Schilling?" I said, "No, we didn't get him." They said, "All right, well, just come back up to Boston, and the parade's going to be happening. We'll figure out what to do with you." So at that point, I took my crew, and we went over towards the Science Museum. And I happened to know my neighbor is a Cambridge police officer. And I went to the back side, and I figured out where the duck boats were going to be splashing into the water. What I realized was, after along the route, they have to stop before they splash in the water, because they have to lift things up and get set to go into the water. So I went over there, and all of a sudden, the duck boats, now this is halfway through the parade, the duck boats are now coming towards us. And I see on the first one, there's the big trophy, first time anyone's seen this, and Larry Lucchino's on board, and Johnny Pesky, and all the big players, right on down the line. And they were stopped right there, and we were live on the air, and I yelled up to Larry Lucchino and said, "Hey, Steve Cooper from Channel 7, hey, can we get on the boat?" And he looked around, he's like, "We don't have any room here." And I said, he goes, "Well, try another one." So I said, and then I said, "Oh, wow, there's Johnny Pesky." So I looked up at him and I said, "Johnny Pesky, what do you think about all this?" He goes, is there a place to pee around here?" And at that point, in my ear, I never was going to say that word, I was going to spell it out, but the word itself. So at that point, we wear these earpieces, as you know, out in the field and on the anchor desk. This is how we hear our producers back at the station. So I had this plugged in, and live on the air, I heard, "Did he just say pee on the air?" Oh no, my career is about to end. Wow. I'm going to join the state police with Cleveland. So anyway, so at that point I thought, okay, let me get over that. I went to the next duck boat down, and the woman that was driving, she stopped the boat, and I said, "Hey, Larry Lucchino said we can get on your boat." She said, "What?" I said, "Larry Lucchino, the owner of the Red Sox, said we can get on your boat." So she says, "Okay." So she goes to the back boat, she drops the stairs. I'm going, uh-oh, this isn't going to end well. I grab my photographer, I pull him up, I grab the guy that's going to run our live capabilities on the duck boat. I'm like, I don't know how this is going to happen, but we'll see what happens. I take the stairs, I lift them up, I said, "Steve, head on into the water." So I knew once we got into the water, the police couldn't arrest me in the water. It might happen afterwards, but at least I'm in the water. So all of a sudden we splash into the water, and we're going through hitting the past the Science Museum into the Charles River, right where the locks are right there. And everyone, you know, millions of people are along the route. And I'm looking out and saying, wow, is this really happening? And I look over, and the woman who is driving the boat, she's taking pictures, and there's no one steering. So I started steering the boat, and they said, Steve Cooper's live on a duck boat. And I said, yeah, and I'm driving the boat right now. And I was driving the boat through the lock. Now, at this point, I don't know who's on the boat. I have no idea. I go, am I on with players? Am I on with the, I don't, you know, I'm not, I don't know who's on the boat. I just know that I'm on a boat, we're in the water, and I don't know how I'm getting off the boat. So now I'm the only Boston reporter on a boat, live in the Charles River, after the Red Sox win the World Series. I'm thinking, is Larry Lucchino going to yell, hey, buddy, get off the boat? Like, there's no way to get off the boat. And I'm looking, and on both sides of the Charles River are just hundreds of thousands of people. And at one point, I sat down between two people, and I looked over, and I'm sitting next to Johnny Damon and his wife. And I'm saying, hey, hi, how you doing? We're live on the air, and this whole thing is going on. And by then, all the other Boston stations were calling the Red Sox, saying, why is Steve Cooper on a boat? How did he get on? And they're like, what? He's on a boat? So we're on with our Red Sox coming in the front office, and they're like, are you guys live on the boat? We're like, yeah! Like, just like, you can't be live on the boat. Like, well, this is what, you know, maybe next year we won't be, but this year. So we're cruising around. Somebody threw a baseball at Pedro Martinez, or hit him on the head, and all this chaos. We swing back around, come back out of the, and we have cameras. So now, again, all of our reporters are all along the route on the land, and I'm the only reporter broadcasting live from a boat. And again, this is 15 years ago when, you know, our signal, we had a little microwave that was on the boat that was pointing towards the Prudential. So that's the only reason we were able to get live off of the boat. So this all just happened by happenstance. So we come back around, and all of a sudden, now all the stations are really upset that they haven't been able to have this opportunity. We come out of the by the Science Museum, out of the water, and now that's where the parade ends. So the lady says, do you want to get off here? And I said, no, take us back to Fenway. So we have a state police escort. We're still on the thing. Everyone's still waiting. We go back to Fenway Park. And the next day, my next stop is we're in the locker room. We're in the locker room, and everyone's signing baseballs and bats. And I'm thinking, wow, did this really just happen? So these things are some of the interesting things that happen on any given day. Our stories change by the hour. You know, they literally go from something like that. You have to be ready for really just for anything that happens. And you know, I say to people all the time, I've been doing this for a long time. This isn't a job for me. Sometimes I forget to take a vacation day. This is just fun for me. And it's fun because I'm from here, and I like to talk to people, and I like to meet people, and I like to create relationships with people. I left everyone my business card here. My cell phone is on it. I actually brought you pens because I was hoping you'd take notes, but I see half of you sleeping. I get that part. But really, in a minute or two, if you have any questions about what we do, because I could obviously go on and on. I don't want to go past the time that you have. But, you know, for me, because I'm from here, it's helpful to cover the news here, and that's all part of the credibility of this. So when you're talking about a rivalry, of, you know, Thanksgiving football game between Lexington and Concord, you know, I know Lexington and Concord. I've covered Lexington and Concord. I've lived here. I've spent time in Lexington and Concord, so I can appreciate all that goes on. And we cover snowstorms as an example. We cover hurricanes. All of a sudden, news is everything from politics to crime to weather, whatever the weather is, to sports. And so who knew that we would all be living through a time where, you know, the Red Sox, the Patriots, the Bruins, and the Celtics would all be having, you know, we joke around about duck boat parades. After what happened in 2004, it became a big thing about security around duck boats and keeping Steve Cooper off of duck boats. And it's like become this thing, and now they have a duck boat for the media, apparently, because I created this whole drama. So now, within the middle of the duck boat parade is a media boat for some reason. No players are on it, nobody's on it, just the media. And it's fascinating to me I mean, I honestly can never take my family on a duck boat in Boston because I swear I'll get arrested. But other than that, it's funny that this company is obsessed with keeping Steve Cooper off of duck boats for duck boat tours. And I thought it was pretty interesting. Just a couple of quick things, and then if you have any questions, just raise your hand as we're going along, because I can tell stories forever and ever and ever. You know, I cover these snowstorms. We go out in the middle of blizzards, and a few years ago, when I started covering them, everyone was, you know, all the reporters from all the stations were, you know, super serious about, well, we live in New England and it snows and we get all that. So one time, jokingly, I took out some you know, donuts and I started eating them on the air. And then people were bringing me donuts to my location and wanted me to eat them on the air, and cupcakes and devil dogs and Twinkies. And then we started this thing where we have a Steve Cooper snack sled, and it has all people and I drag it around me in the snow, and people come over, and, you know, I'm trying to tell people, stay home, stay off the roads, and they're showing up at channel, you know, wherever we're located, and telling us, you know, that they want to bring us cookies and things like that. One day I was, we get a lot of emails and correspondence from, obviously, from viewers, and I always save them. Just interesting because I was covering a storm, and on a Sunday morning, I told people that they should stay off the roads because the roads were dangerous, and we're out there telling you to stay home, and then inevitably everyone's coming out, and there was a 60-car pileup on 93, and so a woman wrote to me and said, you may not have meant it by saying there was no reason to be out on a Sunday morning. It was a little insulting to all the Christians who worship on Sunday morning. I worship in Bedford, and our family got in our car and traveled from Reading to Bedford to do so. Not everyone sits home on a Sunday morning. I won't say the name because someone here would never know this person. And then I don't normally respond to viewers, but I just wrote excellent points. I was in no way trying to insult the viewer. I worked too hard for that, getting up at 2 a.m. to go out and cover these snowstorms. However, the point was really, people did not need to go out. They wanted to think about staying home. It might be a good idea. I guess, however, most people are like you and ventured out anyway. Too bad we ended up at a 60-car pileup on 93 with 20 people sent to the hospital. Thank you for watching 7 News, and I'll see you at the next storm. and I mean, again, like, you know, I appreciate that people... I actually can't either. Sometimes my fingers get the best of me here. Exactly. I agree with you. Yeah, it is restraint. But no, it's just funny because I think people at home or in their living rooms, or in the kitchens, or whatever it is, so people have, you know, I think they feel comfortable, you know, speaking with us and communicating with us, and however they like to do that. By the way, does anyone have any questions?
So, Steve, it seems like you kind of just have to push just a little further than the rules say, right? So getting onto the duck boat, for instance, just asking gets you maybe a little opportunity. Can you talk a little bit about some of those other things that have happened similar to that?
Right, so again, I would say to people in what we do, it's good to be aggressive but not obnoxious.
Yeah.
And so each case is really case by case. And so, like I put a little earlier, Cleve brought up an interesting point. I have a lot of sources, a lot of news sources, a lot of police sources, fire sources, and what they get from me is that trust. And so that they know that when they, we used to say drop a dime, but there's no phones that drop dimes anymore. So if they contact me, and however that happens, they know that A, I'm not going to reveal my sources. So whatever they've told me. B, I'm not going to get any police officers or firefighters in harm's way. So when we cover standoffs, as an example, they'll tell me everything that's going on. But when we go on and something's happening, we'll turn the camera away. And because we have to understand the power that we have. And it's super high. And it's life or death. And I was actually going to come in here. I now drive around with a bulletproof vest in my car because we go on the calls. These people don't put us in harm's way, but in this day and age. So, but my point is that when we cover these stories, they have to feel that trust. They're busy doing their job, so they can't be like, oh no, this guy just said, and by the way, Chief O'Connor told me blah, blah, blah. He might want us to know something, but it doesn't have to come through him. So what they get is, I'm helping them, and they're helping me. And it's a two-way street. And we're not going to put police officers, I've covered, multiple police officers killed in the line of duty. I've covered standoffs, and so that's the bar that we've set. And so, like the other day, we were down in Falmouth. There was a robbery on the Vineyard, and so we went over to this hotel in Falmouth where they thought the suspects were. And I was talking to a source, and I said it was 1 minute of 12, and I said we have the helicopter over the hotel live. And he said, oh, don't do that in case they're watching us. They don't know that we're there. So I quickly called the station and said, pull the helicopter away. So all the helicopters, 6 helicopters, peeled away. And we were literally 15 seconds away from going on. Now, we don't know, it turns out in that case those people weren't in there, but we don't know where they are watching this, but we don't want to put these people, the law enforcement, first responders, any way in jeopardy. So I covered the marathon bombing. That was another thing that I covered. I actually ran the marathon. I ran 17 years in a row, but 10 years ago, 9 years ago, I was running the marathon. I got stopped 45 seconds from the finish line. And then my wife was at the finish line, literally with every press pass that they manufacture. So she was standing under the bridge when the bombs blew up. And I got stopped, and the cell phones were down. I couldn't find her. So for 4 hours, we were walking around Boston. She thought I was dead, and I thought she was dead. And my friend said to me, I was running with me, he said, Steve, we just have to go home and we'll wait for information. And my sources were telling me that there were dead people at the finish line. So obviously I'm starting to assume what? And my kids, they were 8 at the time, and I was calling the police where I live saying, can you know anything? I was telling neighbors to get my kids out of this. I didn't want them to be watching all this. And they were calling us, texting us, Mom, Mom, Mom. So they were starting to hear about this. And anyway, I was leaving Boston, and I was literally backing up, and I bumped into somebody. I turned around, it was my wife. And she was standing right there. She'd been waiting in the same spot for 4 hours. Then I went to work sweating after running 25.7 miles, went to work. And the reason I'm telling you this is because then I continued to work for the next 7 days, the manhunt in Watertown, and I was on the phone during the shootout with a law enforcement source who was in the backyard shooting at Tsarnaev, and I was on open line. I had one phone talking to my source, and the other one I was live on the air, and we were on NBC, Channel 7, and CNN. And then he said, we got him, we got him. I said, you got him, you got him. He's got it, he's in custody. I said, that was all live on the news, and that's how President Obama in the White House heard that Tsarnaev was in custody. But the reason I was telling you that was because you were just asking me about trust.
Yeah.
And that's what, that's what you have to bring, because today, if that person were to call me again, that person could talk to me. Although, a couple of years later, someone said to me, they said, who was Rob? I said, did I say Rob? Or did I say what, Rob? I said, I think it was Bob. But any other questions?
Steve, I just want to acknowledge you did speak about it, but many times over the overnight shift, myself or my counterparts would be going to crime scenes, or you'd be arriving at the same time we're arriving, bullets are flying, so acknowledge the fact that you do put yourself in harm's way, just like we do. That's why you do carry the rest of the helmet, because there have been times when you've been right there, took over, bullets are flying, his coop right there.
Yeah, and again, it's a balance of the challenging stuff with the fun stuff, and that's what sort of makes this job and this profession what it is. So I have to say, for me, we cover some super stressful moments, but being able to get on the duck boats and do all those sorts of things, or covering snowstorms and having fun, that's why I try to make those things fun for the viewer, because what we've all been through, the COVID, the politics, this is unprecedented. And the fact that people can choose where they want to get their information from, so they're going to choose who they like. And if they don't like you, and if they're not interested in you, and that sort of thing, that's not going to help us, get our information.
40 children